Life gets stronger when you embrace Stoic resilience. My life felt like I was constantly losing a battle against chaos. You probably know that feeling, right? The non-stop buzz of notifications, the crushing weight of deadlines, that low humming anxiety in the back of your mind that tells you you're always behind, always missing something. Stress was just my default setting, and my peace of mind was the price I paid for it every single day. I was living in a state of permanent reaction, like a puppet pulled by the strings of whatever happened around me. A single bad email could torpedo my entire morning. Traffic could sour my whole afternoon. Other people's opinions felt like final verdicts on my self-worth. Honestly, it was exhausting. Then, I kept stumbling across these ancient thinkers, the Stoics. Guys like Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who had to deal with war and plague, and Epictetus, a man who was born a slave and became one of the most respected thinkers in Rome. They talked about a different way to live a life of resilience, inner peace, and unshakable strength. But their world of marble columns and dusty scrolls felt a million miles away from my world of glass screens and digital noise. Could these two zero-year-old ideas actually work in our frantic, modern lives? Could they be more than just nice-sounding quotes for a coffee mug? I was skeptical, but I was also desperate enough to try anything. So, I decided to find out. For 1 full week, I was going to try and live like a Stoic. I'd apply their ancient rules to my chaotic modern life, from my first coffee to my last thought at night. This is what happened. The setup. The rules of the experiment. To make this a real experiment, I knew I needed some rules. I couldn't just read a few quotes and hope for the best. I needed a framework. After digging into their main teachings, I picked 3 core principles that seemed to be the foundation of Stoic resilience. These would be my guides for the next 7 days. First, and this is the big one, was the dichotomy of control. This is probably the most famous Stoic idea, and Epictetus nailed it. The concept is simple, but it's a total game changer. Some things are up to us, and some things aren't. We control our own opinions, our judgments, our choices, our actions. We don't control what other people think, the economy, the weather, or our body's health. The whole practice is about pouring every ounce of your energy into what you can control and practicing a kind of radical, courageous acceptance of everything you can't. For 1 week, I would constantly ask myself, is this in my control? If the answer was no, I would practice letting it go. The second principle was amor fati, a Latin phrase that means a love of fate. This idea goes a step beyond just putting up with things. It's the practice of not just enduring what happens, but actively embracing it, loving it, even and seeing it as necessary. Good, bad, success, failure, joy, pain, it's all part of your path. Marcus Aurelius used a powerful metaphor for this. A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. For my experiment, I would try to stop fighting reality. When I hit a setback, I'd try to ask, how can I use this? How is this fuel for the fire? The third and final practice was negative visualization, or, as the Stoics called it, premeditatio malorum, premeditating on bad things. I know, it sounds incredibly dark, but its purpose is actually the opposite. It's the act of calmly and regularly thinking about losing the things you value most. You might imagine your life without your loved ones, your health, your home, or your job. The goal isn't to make you anxious, it's to destroy anxiety. It fosters a deep sense of gratitude for what you have right now, and it prepares you for the shock of future loss. As Seneca said, what is quite unlooked for is more crushing in its effect. By mentally preparing for hardship, you strip it of its power to surprise and overwhelm you. So each morning, I'd spend a few minutes thinking about what I could lose, to better appreciate what I actually had. These were my three pillars: the dichotomy of control, amor fati, and negative visualization. For 7 days, they would be my compass, the journey, the 7-day story. Day 1. 2. The struggle. The first day started with a harsh dose of reality. I woke up, determined, armed with my new Stoic brain. I did my negative visualization, thinking about the impermanence of my job, and felt a surprising wave of gratitude for my career. I was ready. Then, I opened my laptop. An email landed with a virtual thud. A huge project deadline was moved up by an entire week. My old programming kicked in instantly, a surge of pure panic. My heart hammered against my ribs. My mind started racing, making a list of all the ways this was impossible, unfair, and a complete disaster. This was the exact chaos I was trying to escape. I desperately tried to apply the dichotomy of control. Okay, I told myself, the deadline is not in my control. My response is, but it felt like trying to stop a tidal wave with my bare hands. The anxiety was a physical thing, and my rational thoughts felt miles away. I spent the whole morning tense and overwhelmed, feeling like a total failure as a Stoic. That night, I wrote in my journal, something the great Stoics did, too. I described the panic and the feeling of being a fraud. I wrote down that quote from Epictetus: "People are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them." It's one thing to read those words, it's another thing completely to live them. On day 1, I had been thoroughly disturbed. Day 2 wasn't much better. A friend cancelled our dinner plans at the last minute. It was a small thing, but my old habits kicked in. Irritation, feeling disrespected. Again, I tried to use the framework. Their decision, not my control. My reaction, my control. This time, because the stakes were lower, I managed to wrestle my emotions into a state of grudging acceptance. Instead of fuming about it, I decided to use the free evening to do something I enjoyed. It was a tiny, clumsy victory, but it was a victory. The struggle was real. These emotional habits, built over decades, weren't going to be overwritten in 48 hours. Stoicism wasn't a magic pill, it was a muscle, and mine was completely out of shape. Day 3, 4, 5. The shift. The turning point came on Wednesday, in the most boring of modern miseries, a traffic jam. I was heading to an important meeting, and suddenly, a sea of red taillights stretched out ahead of me. The old me would have been a storm of frustration, white-knuckling the steering wheel, muttering curses, my blood pressure climbing with every wasted minute. And that initial surge of anger was definitely there. I felt it rising in my chest. But then I remembered another tool from Marcus Aurelius, the view from above. He often wrote about zooming out and picturing events from the perspective of the cosmos. So, stuck in my car, I tried it. I pictured myself in my car, just one tiny red light in a long ribbon of lights. I zoomed out further, seeing the whole city, a huge map of people just trying to get somewhere. I zoomed out even more, seeing the continent, the planet, just a little blue marble spinning in the vast, silent darkness of space. From that high up, my traffic jam, my meeting, my stress, it was all so small, utterly insignificant. And for the first time, something in me didn't just grudgingly accept it, it genuinely let go. The anger just dissolved. It was replaced by this strange and wonderful sense of calm. I couldn't control the traffic, but I could control my perspective. I put on a podcast and just sat there. It was a profound shift. I wasn't fighting reality anymore. I was flowing with it. That breakthrough carried over into the next 2 days. On Thursday, when I did my negative visualization, I didn't just think about losing things. I tried to really feel the absence. I imagined my apartment empty, my closest relationships gone, and I came out of it not feeling scared, but feeling this intense, vibrant appreciation for the warmth of my home and the love in my life. It made the present moment feel incredibly rich and precious, a gift I had been taking for granted. On Friday, the ultimate test arrived. I got some critical feedback on that same project that sent me into a panic on Monday. My work was being questioned. In the past, this would have felt like a personal attack, and I would have fired back a defensive, ego-driven response. But this time was different. I paused. I took a breath. And I asked the Stoic question, what part of this is in my control? The critic's opinion? Not in my control. The tone of their email? Not in my control. But my response, my actions, and my willingness to learn those were entirely in my control. I was able to read the feedback, separate the emotional noise from the useful signal, and identify the valid points. I made a plan to address them and just let the rest go, without all the usual emotional baggage. It was empowering. I wasn't a victim of criticism, I was a student of it. For the first time, the 4 Stoic virtues, wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control, felt real. I had acted with self-control instead of anger, and with the wisdom to see a chance to get better. Day 6. 7. The transformation. By the last 2 days, something fundamental had changed. The world around me was just as unpredictable. Life was still life, but my internal operating system was getting a massive update. That constant, low-level anxiety that had been the soundtrack to my life was fading, replaced by a quiet confidence. On Saturday, a minor disaster struck at home. A leaky pipe was starting to flood my kitchen. Before, this would have been a weekend-ruining catastrophe, a vortex of stress and frantic phone calls. This time, though, my mind went straight to the dichotomy of control. The pipe is leaking. Fact. I can't control that. What can I control? My actions, right now. I calmly turned off the water, found the number for a plumber, and laid down some towels. I did what was in my power and accepted the rest. There was no drama, no meltdown, just a problem and a practical response. On Sunday, I went for a walk without my phone, on purpose. I just focused on being present, the feeling of the sun on my skin, the sound of leaves, the simple act of breathing. I wasn't worrying about the past or anxiously planning the future. I was just living right here, in this moment, like Marcus Aurelius urged. The goal wasn't to conquer the world anymore, but to conquer myself. And in that, I found a deep sense of peace. Looking back at the person I was just 7 days earlier, the difference was stark. The person who panicked over an email was now calmly handling a flooding kitchen. The person who fumed in traffic was now finding peace by imagining a view from space. It wasn't that my life had gotten easier, it was that I had gotten stronger. The climax, the core insight. This week-long experiment revealed a truth that's both simple and completely life-altering. The world will always be a little chaotic, people will be unpredictable, challenges will pop up, and fate will sometimes feel cruel and unfair. My whole life, I'd been living under the delusion that I could find peace if I could just manage to control all of those external things. If I could just prevent the bad email, avoid the traffic, get everyone to like me, and stop things from breaking, then I'd finally be happy. It was a battle I could never win. Stoicism didn't take the problems out of my life. The deadline still moved, the friend still cancelled, the pipe still leaked. What changed wasn't my circumstances, but my center of gravity. Stoicism taught me to turn my focus away from the storms I couldn't control and toward the one thing I could, the rudder of my own mind. And here's the biggest revelation. Resilience isn't about becoming an emotionless robot or building a hard shell around yourself. That's a total misconception. It's about developing a powerful kind of emotional intelligence. It's about creating a tiny bit of space between what happens to you and how you respond. And in that space, you get to make a conscious, rational choice. It's the freedom to choose wisdom over worry, courage over fear, and self-control over a knee-jerk reaction. Stoicism didn't teach me to suppress my feelings. It taught me to understand them, process them, and decide which ones were worth acting on. It didn't promise me a perfect life. It gave me an unshakable inner citadel, a fortress of calm that no amount of external chaos can ever breach. Conclusion. Embracing Stoic resilience doesn't mean your life magically gets easier. It means you get stronger. The chaos of modern life doesn't have to be your master. The endless notifications, the surprise setbacks, the opinions of others, these things only have the power you give them. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find your strength. The 3 principles I followed are not just philosophical ideas, they are practical tools you can start using right now. The dichotomy of control is a filter that relieves you of burdens you were never meant to carry. Amor fati is a mindset that turns every obstacle into a stepping stone, and negative visualization is a practice that can turn ordinary, everyday moments into sources of deep joy and gratitude. This isn't about being perfect, it's about practice. It's a lifelong commitment to strengthening yourself, one day and one choice at a time. If you feel overwhelmed by the world, if you feel like your peace is held hostage by your circumstances, I truly believe these ancient tools can help you build your own inner fortress. So I'll leave you with a question. What is one small thing in your life today that is truly within your control? Your breath, your posture, your decision to be kind to the next person you talk to? Focus on that. Start there.